do we sell regenerative agriculture and agroforestry rather than just selling Excelsa? Right? Because this industry has
100%.
demonstrated. Okay.
100%. You have to sell how is this coffee growing? Why are we growing this species? And why is it that this information is key, right?
Right. Because the consumer wants to know that now.
Absolutely. And agroforestry is a word that is being used, but what does it mean to you as a producer? Why are you using these techniques, or why have you been growing coffee under shade for so long? Has that been beneficial to you? And do you want to continue doing it? For all reasons, the answer is yes. And I hope everyone says yes.
Mm-hmm. This episode is proudly brought to you by Mapper Forward's workshop. It's time to become a coffee consultant. Learn how to diversify your revenue streams and create freedom from your day job while saying goodbye to that alarm clock forever by becoming a consultant within the coffee industry or directly to consumers who have shifted towards home brewing and home roasting. Protect your income from challenging times in the coffee value chain by taking this course today. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for details. Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 3 of a great 5-part series with Komal Sable from South India Coffee Co. Komal, we're talking about the future of coffee in India. And in the last episode, we, for the first time on this podcast, really started to define what low intervention coffees are. And as we've got a lot of volatility that 2024 has really made obvious to the coffee industry, starting to explore terms like regenerative agriculture, agroforestry, plant genetics, and adapting to all of this volatility. This low intervention coffee, we were specifically speaking about Excelsa, seems to be one of the pieces of the puzzle that we're going to need moving into the future. If we're going to have this as a legitimate value proposition for producers, having a market for it on the consuming end is going to be important. When you've got people, when you look at historically in coffee, the rage around Gesha and the rage around Pink Bourbon and all of these kinds of things that are happening, can Excelsa be the next version of that? Given that it's quite a functional, not just from a taste perspective, this is actual functional solution to the challenges that we've got. Can you see this being the next version of that?
Why do you want it to be the next version of that? Why can't it be?
Best answer ever.
So, can we take a step back and say this is the cost of production for Excelsa? And this is why I'm saying that it is low intervention. We don't give it any love, care, and attention. So what is the cost of production of this coffee? The only drawback is that it is a tree and you have to actually climb and harvest the fruit. That is the cost of making that coffee. And of course, your processing cost. Now, if you can make cost of production plus a percentage of your profit, and if you're happy with that price that you're getting, should that be okay for you to propagate this? Or do we want it to be selling at, I don't know, $100 or whatever it is?
Well, the thing that the Panamanians got right when they were doing this Gesha thing is that they knew that the hype is what was going to sell it.
Okay.
And if we have a legitimate solution that is going to help producers, we need to create a market that is going to help producers and is the hype. And, we're just exploring this in real time together here. This could so easily be one of the conversations we normally have off air. But do you think do you think that that's something that we should go about looking at doing? Is it going to be important for us so that people can understand that Excelsa is a viable, or these low intervention coffees are a viable option, that we need to start creating a kind of hype and fad around it? Or do you think there's another way that we can go about creating this market?
So this is the beauty of specialty, I think. Like, we have a market or a consumer who is willing to try new things, or willing to give something different a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Exploring that market in this situation, where when I started with Excelsa, right, like I didn't know how the market is going to react to it, or whether they're even going to accept it or not. The fact that I started selling it at a particular price, and a lot of my roaster friends who are very kind to me said, "Komal, you're selling it too cheap. You need to increase the price."
Mm-hmm.
Now, that kind of got me to think with the same thing that you said, that we need to create the hype for it. Yes and no, because I think with the producer hat on, I think if we are able to do enough research now with Southern India Coffee Co., what we're doing is research on this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's create high cupping, good quality Excelsas, which can grow, or which can have a market either in the specialty or in the entry level of specialty coffees. Whether we want to do that, or do we want to make it into this amazing coffee that is, the next thing that everybody's talking about.
Okay.
Yeah,
go ahead. Go. Well, my question there is, like, do we sell regenerative agriculture and agroforestry rather than just selling Excelsa? Right? Because this industry has 100%. Demonstrated. Okay.
100%. You have to sell how is this coffee growing? Why are we growing this species? And why is it that this information is key, right?
Right. Because the consumer wants to know that now.
Absolutely. And agroforestry is a word that is being used, but what does it mean to you as a producer? Why are you using these techniques, or why have you been growing coffee under shade for so long? Has that been beneficial to you? And do you want to continue doing it? For all reasons, the answer is yes. And I hope everyone says yes.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the prices of Arabicas, or you look at the price of Robusta, for example, this whole year has been shooting up. We are seeing a very different trend where people want to move towards the Robusta cultivation. And then we are seeing how the coffee is being produced, or their agricultural practices are changing for better yielding Robustas, which may be essentially could be reducing your canopy cover, or it could be reducing your second tier of shade. Now, that's how Indian coffee is grown. Coffee in India is grown with 2 tiers of shade, and that is what agroforestry is all about. You grow intercropping with other produce. You have jungle trees. You have a mix of your fruit trees, jungle trees, pepper vine growing on all these trees. And then you have your second tier of shade, which is your nitrogen fixing shade tier. And that biodiversity creates what Indian coffee is right now all about.
Mm.
And we need to keep that going, whether it is your low intervention coffee species, or if it is your commercially grown Arabicas and Robustas. Coming back to your low intervention and how you market it, I think this story is something that people will be very interested to know on how these coffees are grown. I'll give you an example of the Travancorensis, right? Every month, it has the Travancorensis plants bloom every single month.
Okay. Wow. Every month.
Yes. And I have been observing this for the last few years, I would say last 1.5, 2 years now. When they were young, of course not, but now that they have kind of come to a certain age, they are blooming for, I think, since Jan, I have always posted something about the Travancorensis blooming. I'll just walk into the species garden and I'll talk about it and kind of show that it is blooming every day, every month. This means that can we not look at, like, just open our minds and think that we might have to harvest a coffee every 2 months or every 3 months? That might be good for us because we already have all this infrastructure and we have coffee coming in once a year, which means that all the infrastructure for post-harvest processing is being used once, like maybe for like 3 months of the year. And the rest of the 9 months is sitting ideal.
Mm-hmm.
So would that add additional income or create more an additional income to your producer if you have a coffee or another crop that is coming in to your into your kitty every 2 months?
Except I imagine if we look at the economics of what's required to grow that, and I don't mean financial, I mean from a nutrients perspective, I suspect that if you are now increasing your harvest or your yield by so much, that's going to be quite taxing on the land from a nutrients perspective, no?
Very good question or a observation, because again, these are native plants. We are really, the work that we are doing, we are seeing that we're not really giving it any fertilizer. We're not giving it anything at this point of time.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, we are in research phases. We are doing like plots where we have to understand which coffee is actually going to work with low intervention practices, which is why we are doing we're putting in field trials where we will understand this in the next few years, hopefully.
Okay. Now,
and I'll be able to give you a realistic answer by then.
I might come and visit you and see the answer for myself. Now, all of this discussion ties in really well with the idea of what is precipitating in Europe with the EUDR. Like, if we're looking at creating a market, it sounds like low intervention crops or low intervention coffee crops are going to be kind of helpful for the situation that's happening with EUDR. If we want to create a market, EUDR is requiring us to do that, right? It's saying that we can't have deforestation. No coffee can come from land that's been deforested. It's got a lot of other vague rules that none of us understand yet. Shout out to the EUDR team. But am I right here in saying that this could be helpful for people in Europe that are looking to buy coffee?
With Indian coffee, again, there will be so with India, basically, coffee is really grown in shade-grown conditions. So I think that is one take for Indian coffee in general, in relation to EUDR, I believe. Of course, like if we are adding low intervention coffee species, I don't think that has any relationship at the moment to EUDR as such. But what would be great is if we actually give this information in terms of how this coffee is grown. That probably might work in our favor for the EUDR regulations. But we need to kind of explore this a lot more and understand, because I definitely need to know a lot more about what it is and what it is not to be EUDR compliant.
I think that's...
But I mean, I can definitely give you absolutely all information possible on where the coffee is, who the producers are, what the polygons look like, and all of that, as long as you want to know how traceable that coffee is. So yes, I think we're good on that.
Right. And so my question is kind of like this idea, if we're using low intervention coffees, I suspect that because you can be lazy and you don't have to do very much with them, you can leave them alone. They're going to grow, they're going to yield. And that is exactly what EUDR is trying to encourage. It's trying to encourage that you aren't cutting down forests to grow and to have like the typical conventional farming that disrupts the natural environment. It sounds to me like low intervention coffees could be helpful for producers in that situation. Is that right?
I think so. I mean, see, at this point of time, we need to understand that if we are going to go with low intervention coffee species or overall agricultural practices that are low intervention, would that work for you? Is that economically feasible for you to do?
Mm-hmm.
Is one. Keeping the producer's hat on, I want to mention this, like, if something is working for you at this point of time and you want to future proof it, you need to think 10 steps ahead and figure out what is going to work for you in the next 10 years or the next 20 years. It could be a potential of adding another crop, which could be this low intervention coffee species.
Okay.
Or it is not this or that. It has to be a balance. It is always a balance.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of the volatility that's going on right now is because of the lack of balance in a lot of this stuff. All right. In the next episode, we're going to take a bit of a deep dive into agroforestry and the role that plays in this balance, in restoring a lot of this balance. So join us for the next episode, folks. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, friends. Please don't forget to show us some love by subscribing, liking, commenting, and most of all, sharing this podcast with your friends. Check the show notes for links, including our sponsors and our Patreon, and stay tuned for more great conversations on the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward.